Good morning everyone, and thank you for attending this webinar. My name is Simona Cristiano. I'm a researcher at the Council for Research, Agricultural Research and Economics, CREA, based in Italy, and particularly I work for the Research Center for Policies and Bioeconomy. As you may know, CREA is the main institute in Italy in the field of research and economics in agriculture. And it is also partner of the National Rural Development Network, which provide networking activities, support to knowledge exchange between rural stakeholders, along with technical and methodological support to the stakeholders of rural development programs financed by the European National Public Funds. Well, our main target in the field of evaluation are the managing authorities of the RDP's, Rural Development Programs, under which responsibilities evaluations have been carried out systematically and also on demand basis with the help of the evaluators in charge of the assignment for evaluation services. Well, what we do under the National Rural Network and to support these managing authorities. Among the others, we primarily promote the culture of evaluation through providing capacity building, research on evaluation, and a methodological support to increase capacities in governing assignments, processes, and uses of evaluations. And we promote the exchange of practices, approaches, methods among the evaluators of public programs dealing with rural development. Together with my colleagues, Francesca Varia and Valentina Carta, we organized this session with the aim to reflect on the importance, together with you, of capitalizing the evaluative knowledge provided by the huge number of evaluations carried out within the Common Agricultural Policy since 1988. We have a huge number of evaluations already carried out. And this by reflecting on possible approaches, practices that could help the systematizing of evaluation to lead a major conceptual use of this evaluative knowledge in view of better grounding evidence-based policy designs. As a matter of fact, as a National Rural Development Program, we are observing that since programming period 2008 to 2013, in the context of the Common Agricultural Policy in EU, the ongoing evaluation approach of programs led evaluation becoming less periodic and more systematic, more tailored upon the needs of policymakers and program stakeholders. And this is very important. Well, during this programming period, which is 2014 to 2020 in Italy, for just 20 rural development programs, we can observe that over 80 evaluations have been already conducted and more are planned to be conducted by the end of 2024. Well, the majority of these evaluations regard specific themes and aspects of the programs as their use is mainly instrumental and moved for the purpose of ongoing decision making. So, well, this session panel will help hopefully capturing insight and suggestions on approaches and procedures for the systematizations of the evaluations and their conceptual use, which regard two different organizations who work on evaluation outside the Common Agricultural Policy. These are IFAD and the national and regional evaluation units, which were set up some time ago in Italy to support public administrations in governing evaluations of public programs. Well, before presenting our relators, introducing the first one, I'd like to encourage participants to this to this session, to take part in this session actively through the Q&A section. Please ask your questions, and these will be addressed and will be used for further discussion. So you are very important. So I have the pleasure now to introduce Fabrizio Felloni, who is the Deputy Director of the Independent Office of Evaluation within the International Fund for Agricultural Development, so-called IFAD. He will present how the organizational evaluation culture is implemented by its office and how this includes the systematization of evaluation findings, providing under its responsibilities. Particularly, this consolidated practice in IFAD is interesting because we can learn procedures and methods put already in use to ensure capturing evaluative knowledge and follow up on the recommendations of the evaluations. So please, Fabrizio Felloni, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all the colleagues who are following us today on this seminar, and thank you for having invited me to this event. So in my presentation, I will follow this structure. First, I will present the notion of organizational evaluation culture as it has been presented in the literature on evaluation. Then I will briefly explain how the evaluation architecture of IFAD is organized, and then the key issues and how the elements of evaluation culture are presented there, and also some avenues for future development. So this is an introductory presentation. I hope it will help to stimulate the discussion and also put the other presentation also into a framework. So let me first start with the PowerPoint. So let me go to the first slide. So here we have a notion of evaluation culture, and I'm using here the definition provided by John Main. John Main, many of you will know him. He was widely published. He was in the office of the Auditor General of the Government of Canada, and unfortunately he passed away last year. So his definition in an article of 2009 is organizational evaluation culture. It is a culture which demands data and empirical information on the performance and outcomes. So demands data and on outcomes, and uses the findings to improve performance and achievement of outcomes. So in an organization, you have an evaluation culture when there is a clear engagement in self-reflection and self-examination and looking at evidence. When evidence is used, not just, evidence is used to challenge and support what the organization is doing. An organization is also challenging, is accustomed to candor and challenges its own way of working, and there is a genuine dialogue. And when there is engagement in evidence-based learning, and there is time made for learning. So using evidence deliberately to improve the organizational outcomes. A couple of implications, again, on this is that having good data is important, but not sufficient to generate an evaluation culture. Producing good quality evaluation is important, but again, not sufficient to generate the evaluation culture. What is needed is capacity to analyze and interpret data. You need to have a system which stores evaluation findings and recommendation and makes them accessible. And then there needs to be a feedback loop from evaluation, leading from recommendation to changes in the design and the implementation of programs. And finally, very important, overarching, a system of incentives that puts value on the evaluation use and sanctions non-use of evaluation. So these are sort of characteristics of an evaluation culture in an organization. Now, I will move in my presentation to a specific case of evaluation where I work, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, or IFAD. It's a specialized agency of the United Nations. It's based in Rome, and it finances rural development projects in developing countries. These projects are implemented by governments, not by IFAD. IFAD is financing, but the governments are implementing. It has been active since 1978, and it has ongoing project financing for $7.5 billion US dollars, and it's active in 90 countries. So The evaluation system at IFAD is made of two parts. One is the independent evaluation, which is the division where I work. We report directly to the board of directors of IFAD. We don't report to management. And then there is a self-evaluation. The self-evaluation is conducted by management. So all the departments of IFAD that deal with regional operations, for example, we have 5 regions. So they conduct their own self-evaluation. They report to their management, eventually to the president of IFAD, and then to the board. So there's two systems. One is independent, one is self-evaluation. The two systems which are presented in this slide. So you can see on the left, the self-evaluation works at project level, it works at country level, and there's some form of institutional level reporting. The other side of the slide shows what we do as independent office. We do not report to management, and we also have differentiated types of evaluation. So we have project level evaluation, country level, synthesis evaluation, corporate level evaluation, and then we have reports, sorry for the acronym, it's called ARI, and that's an annual report which consolidates and synthesizes the main findings from our evaluation in the past years. So we conduct our own independent evaluation, and we also validate the quality of a self-evaluation by management. So it's two systems, and you can see there's some parallel elements, for example, both a project country level evaluation and both at some level of institutional reporting. Now, a little bit more on consolidated findings. So it's important to conduct evaluation, but it's also important to consolidate findings and also to be able to see whether there are trends in the performance. So the slide that I'm presenting now is extracted from an annual report that we have. So we produce it every year since 2007. And since we have a system to rate evaluation findings, so we have a 6-scale rating system, and we're able, for example, to track the percentage of projects that had a satisfactory rating on certain criteria. In this slide, for simplicity, I'm only showing 3 criteria. There are more than that. One is the performance of IFAD, one is the performance of the governments, and one is the overall project achievement. So what I'm showing in this graph is that we're able to follow the ratings of our evaluations since 2007, and so we can see sometimes evolutions and trends. Sometimes the rating trends go up, sometimes they go down. And what the graph shows is the percentage of projects that have been rated as satisfactory. They had a satisfactory rating. So you can see there's some evolution. We're able to track it. And we also have a database of ratings, which is even available to the public. So that's just to show you that what we do is to conduct individual evaluation, but also consolidate findings and try to have time series of ratings. Another aspect which is very critical of evaluation is to have recommendation, but also what happens after recommendations are formulated. So you don't want reports to be in a drawer and nobody is going to follow up on the recommendations. What we have at IFAD is a system that at least ensures some commitments to follow up on recommendation, committed by management, some transparency and some accountability. So what happens is that every time an evaluation has a recommendation, the management has to provide written response. And if the evaluation is conducted at the country level, the response will be joined by a management of IFAD and by the government of the country. Then the management response is recorded in an annual document. So it's you have a tracking of the follow-up proposed by management, and our office will comment every year on this annual report, which presents the tracked proposal to follow up on the recommendation. So you have a closure of a cycle. Management proposes a follow-up. The follow-up is recorded, and our office comments, if necessary, on the follow-up proposed by management. So how evaluation knowledge is captured in our organization? There's many ways to do it. One is evaluation synthesis. These are a product that our office produces. The independent evaluation offices conduct synthesis on past evaluation findings on certain themes. For example, last year we conducted one on IFAD operations on infrastructure. This year we're producing a synthesis on findings on government performance. So the evaluation synthesis that we produce also help with a thematic basis to consolidate past evaluation findings. Then we have also an evaluation website, which is available to the general public. So all our reports are available to IFAD staff, but also to the public. Anyone can access them for free. Then management produces technical notes on how to for example, design a project. We conducted in the past evaluation on rural finance, so management has produced technical notes on how to design a project which deals with rural finance. And then we also have quality assurance at design. There is a division in IFAD which every time the new project is designed, they will provide, it's a division which belongs to management, and they will provide an assessment of a quality of design. And when they do so, they also use our evaluation to draw from past findings and see whether the new project design is drawing from available evidence of what works and what doesn't work. So this is a system that we have at the moment. We also, it has some good advantages and some elements of strengths, but we also think there are areas for further work and areas for improvement. So, for example, we have a considerable amount of reports and information on evaluation findings and technical notes by management. So what we need to do now is to come up with an upgraded search function so that someone who looks for evidence on evaluation on a certain topic can find easily where this information is available. So we don't have yet, but we think we would like to have an experiment with machine learning so that we can have a web-based tool that allows anyone to look for information on a certain topic and see which evaluation have findings on that topic and what they find. So through machine learning, it would be possible to have an upgraded search function. Another area where we want to work is to introduce an electronic platform to track recommendation of evaluations. At the moment, the tracking is done on documents. So, but now we can upgrade this and have an electronic platform so that everyone can run a query and look, for example, at what type of follow-up has been given by management on any type of evaluation that we'll be conducting, and what is the status also of implementation. So this is something that exists in our organizations, and we want to have this, an electronic platform to track recommendation and the follow-up. And last but not least, what we think of doing in the future is that we would like our office to conduct an ex-post review on the follow-up to recommendation. So let's say after 2 or 3 years that the recommendation has been made, and after 2 or 3 years that the management has proposed an action to follow up on these recommendations, we think that our office could conduct a review of how this has been done and what are the changes that this has made and what result it has led to. So these are 3 further areas of work. So I will stop here and I will be available to answer any question that you may have. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Fabrizio Perloni, for your inspiring presentation, I must say. Even if I must say that we have a common practice about the follow-up on the recommendations, because we also use something in the evaluations to track how and on which topic the recommendations have been provided by the evaluators and how the managing authorities are following up these evaluations. But a very good and inspirational insight about the further work to be done for systematizing the evaluations, the use of machine learning for codified somehow, no, for navigating through all these recommendations and follow-ups is very interesting idea. So let me introduce now Laura. If you have, I want to repeat this. If you have any question, please go ahead with the Q&A section. I will introduce now Laura Tagle and Silvia Martini, who are evaluation experts. They are based in Italy, and they will present jointly because the experiences they will take a part of are somehow coordinated and interconnected, I will say, because experiences are conducted at national and at regional level. So Laura Tagle is an evaluator. She's working now at the evaluation unit of the Italy's Department for Cohesion Policies, while Silvia Martini coordinates, is an evaluator, and she coordinates the evaluation unit of region Emilia-Romagna. I said that they will take as a part of two interconnected experiences conducted at national level for the part of Laura and regional level for the part of Silvia Martini. And they will talk about the research design methods and procedures put in use for the systematization of a huge number of evaluations provided under the cohesion policies during this the current programming period. So please, Laura and Silvia, go with your presentation.
Thank you. And good morning, everybody, and thanks for this opportunity. We will actually present just one experience that we did, and that we did together. And it was articulated in both at a national level and at the regional level, and it's a collective work. I'm trying to share my desktop, and it seems that I'll even manage it, maybe. Can you see the screen? You should.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Yes, okay, so I'm gonna go very fast through what the context is for this experience, and then I'll give some of the elements from the national point of view, and then Silvia will actually show the work that we did. Now, Italy's got separate evaluation systems. What I work on is the evaluation system for cohesion policy, which interacts with, but is not connected with, for example, what Simona works about, or with the evaluation of schools. Cohesion policy is the effort, the coordinated effort that Italy's regions make to improve, to decrease disparities, territorial disparities between the north and the south, and within regions, and within the spaces within urban and inner areas and everything, and social cohesion as well. The evaluation system for all of this huge effort is built around the evaluation mandates from the European cohesion policy. It is very complex because each ministry and regional government has its evaluation plan, and they decide what to evaluate, how, with which questions. All of this is internal evaluation because authorities pay for evaluating their own programs, and this is something we share with the system with Simona, but not with a part of what Fabrizio has just shown. There are independent evaluation instances, but they are totally separate from what we do. I work at the evaluation unit of the Department for Cohesion Policy, NUVAP, which is responsible for coordinating the entire effort and launches collective activities and observes what happens, which evaluations are actually done, and animates the debate within the network of Italy's evaluation units. Each region and most ministries involved in cohesion policy have an evaluation unit. They work with partial funding from the central government, since this is considered in the collective interest to have public interest to have evaluation units supporting the work, but the system is very decentralized. In each region, each ministry decides where and how the evaluation units must be and what they are and what they do. So the resulting picture is is very beautiful and colorful, as you can see. The network joins together all the evaluation units. Its goal is to strengthen them through support from peers and peer pressure, It is a federated network. We do not, there is no central, no central unit coordinating it. We just provide support and animation. We propose both collective activities, producing knowledge together for the entire system, and common activities, supporting the activities that each evaluation unit does. In 2019, we decided to have evaluation reviews, because if you remember my first slide, we have lots of evaluation of cohesion policies, in excess of 350 since 2016, but there is very little use for these evaluations. People don't read them, they don't discuss about them. When we discuss about the cohesion policy, we do not refer to evaluation findings, but to knowledge that accrues from various sources. So we decided to accumulate this evidence. We decided not to hire evaluators to do it, like skilled consultants, but to do it all together in a decentralized way and collective way. And our goal was to support the programming of the next programming period interventions for cohesion policy. And we also decided to work on evidence, not on recommendations at all, because we have a huge problem on evidence. And I'm not ashamed to say it, even though we have been working on improving the quality of evaluation for a very long time. We called all this towards learning from evaluations, because we conceived this as a first step. We produced 6 non-systematic narrative evaluation reviews. They were non-systematic because there was no time to actually address all the huge quantity of material, and we tried to be as friendly as possible to the interests of the evaluation units that work with us. Some of them had never done a review before. We collectively chose 6 themes based on hot issues from the policy debate. So we had new questions, and we went and interrogated all the evaluations. Of course, the questions that the evaluations had answered to were different, and this in itself constituted a very small blimp in the beginning. We had to overcome conceptual issues and to develop a simple methodology to find, collect, and process the evidence. We had a dedicated resource and people, consultants, who specifically worked on facilitating this collective interinstitutional work, which was done in a non-hierarchic environment. So we had a complex architecture, including group work, collective decision-making, and extending towards dissemination of the results. We had in-person meetings. We had a lot of video conferences before the time when this became necessary, and so we arrived prepared, actually, I must say. We had large meetings, one-to-one contacts, and everything you can conceive in between. We had mixed meetings, everything. We were constantly working together, and we used the evaluation units network dedicated platform. These are the 6 themes: out-migration and territorial imbalances. We have a huge problem of out-migration from the south and from Italy in general. Hydrogeological instability, which came useful afterwards. Innovation and research, active labor policies, social innovation, and place-based policy tools, which I mention only now because this is what Silvia is going to talk about. Was a huge number of evaluation units participating, research centers, including CREA, by the way, and it involved 84 individuals, which was quite, tough and very fun to coordinate. We produced 73 evidence cards, one for each evaluation that we read. Then we read more, but we didn't all do the evidence cards. Of course, the theoretical frames, infographics, the 6 evaluation reviews. We did presentations. We produced presentations at policy debate meetings, small meetings, huge meetings, thematic meetings, and partnership meetings, all sorts of stuff. And then we had further results, which we had not planned for own evaluation reviews. There was a new evaluation network review on transports, which is being completed now. And then we used the reviews in the labs, the 2020 labs, because this is what we also tried to do. We had we went forward in creating labs, workshops, in which we involved the managing authorities of the program in using evaluations and using other sources of knowledge in specifically thinking about programming and answering the questions that the log frame poses to you when you have to plan. Because, as Fabrizio has mentioned, the producing and synthesizing knowledge is necessary, but it's not sufficient for it to be used. So we did this 3 labs, which are still somehow working, but this is another adventure. And I leave the floor to Silvia and thank everyone.
I'd like to go very quickly through the evaluation organization of cohesion policy evaluation in Emilia-Romagna. Here you can see the structure of the national plan. You can see the regional evaluation plan has got 2 levels. One level is the program evaluation level, and here we have all the program evaluations performed by the managing authorities with external evaluators. And then we have a level, which is the policy evaluations level, where we measure the integrated contribution of all the funds to the achievement of some strategic goals of the regional government, which are detailed in the regional strategic document for the current program period and in the Employment Pact, which is a political document, agreement signed in 2015 by the regional government with 50 stakeholders. Here you can see the governance. We have a steering group, which involves the colleagues who are responsible of the evaluation of programs. As you can see, we have many different regional programs going on. The European Regional Development Fund Program, the ESF Fund Program, of course also the Rural Development Fund Program, and also we manage a Territorial Cooperation Program. They are all involved in evaluations, and the Regional Evaluation Unit supports steering, which involves external evaluators, of course, and also experts from managing authorities, experts in the regional statistical unit. We organize discussions with stakeholders also. We invested a lot since 2014 to build an evaluation culture within our organization, or let's say to improve it. And we basically organized training activities involving all the colleagues that are managing the funds in our region, but also colleagues from other departments, because it is fundamental to share a common evaluation culture within an organization. We worked on tool for quality assurance. We worked a lot on, for instance, on the terms of references of the tenders for external evaluation, because you can't have a good evaluation if you don't have a good term of reference, because this means to select the offer and also the quality of the research team of external evaluators. We established a steering group, which I explained before. I hope it was possible to follow at the first part of the presentation. And we designed an organizational framework for cooperation among external evaluators, because, as I said before, we have policy evaluations where external evaluators work together in common activities to measure the impact of the investment funded under the 3 programs on specific objectives such as, for instance, employment, how many new jobs were created with the investment of the 3 funds, or another policy evaluation which is currently underway is on climate change, so on the reduction of CO2 emissions, or on innovation policy and so on. And last but not least, we participated in the evaluation unit network activities. And here we go to the experience that Laura introduced. The regional unit of the Emilia-Romagna regional unit coordinated an evaluation group focused on place-based instruments, which included 6 regions. You can see them in the map, with the support of the central unit and a group of experts of the ASIS project. The goal was to capitalize on evaluation findings to support and improve the program's design for the next programming period. And the research questions were how to develop effective place-based instruments, how to set up an adequate multi-level governance, how to increase the matching between local strategies and public policies. Here we have a big dilemma, a big trade-off between the multidimensional character of the local strategies and the sectoral character of policies in general, and in particular of funds. Of course, the final question was what we learned from previous experience of local development strategies. This slide illustrates the conceptual framework of place-based instruments, which is a framework which was fundamental for us in our exercise to move from the findings, the evaluative findings, to the evidences, and also to start thinking in terms of recommendation for decision makers. What we did in the review was to analyze approximately 20 evaluations carried out by the European Commission, regional authorities, national authorities, the Bank of Italy, and so on place-based instruments, of course, and to collect all collect the findings first. Then, with the help of this conceptual framework, move from the findings to the evidences, and then with a lot of discussion and a lot of reflection, move to lesson learned and also some recommendation for policymakers. In the next slide, 2 aspects that are very, very important in the process of identification of evidences and sedimentation of evaluation knowledge. The first is to raise a discussion, as I said before. We had discussion within the research group, we had discussion with the national unit, central unit, but we discussed also the findings with the beneficiaries and with the managing authorities, because it has to do with the results and it has to do with tools also. And then to go to the sedimentation of evaluation knowledge, it is fundamental, I think Laura said this, to participate and animate also policy debate, where the evidences move to recommendations. And we were lucky enough to be part of the Policy Objective 5 working group for the elaboration of the partnership agreement, the consultation with the partners, and where we could discuss our findings and our evidences. We arranged 4 conferences in the 4 pilot inner areas in our region. And then we publicate a report on the experience of the implementation of the National Inner Area Strategy in our region, with a chapter devoted to, the presentation of the review. And finally, this is the last slide, and finally, what we learned from this experience was a method of capitalization of knowledge management, of evaluation knowledge, sorry. And we adopted the use of evaluation review. We elaborated what we call the compendium, which is a review of all the evaluations carried out in our region in the period 2014 to 2020. 21 evaluations were analyzed and synthesized. And we elaborated a chapter called Lesson Learned, which was part of the new regional strategic document for the 2021 to 2027 period. And also the compendium is an annex of the document, which was approved by the regional government at the end of April, and which is now under discussion within the assembly, the regional assembly. So we may say that we raised a debate among policymakers, decision makers, really at a high level, and we are very, very proud of this. And we learned this approach thanks to the cooperation within the network.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Laura and Silvia. This is very interesting, very massive work, collaborative work. This is, I mean, a tremendous work to be done, and very insightful, very interesting to do together with a lot of stakeholders. Especially the experience at regional level, I must say, is important, because already we have some tangible results of all this work, and this is really important for you, but also for us to understand well which use can be done, which benefits we can have from the systematization of the evaluation. A lot of efforts beyond this work. So very, very good job. And Vincenzo Angrisani is an evaluator. He's involved in different evaluations in RDPs, but also cohesion policies in Italy, and he works at the European level for the European as national contact point, a national geographic expert. He works for the European Rural Development Network for evaluation, the help desk. So Vincenzo, what I wanted to ask you first is which benefit evaluators can draw from this type of systematization of the evaluation? How they, which problems they are encountering still in conducting evaluations, and the lack of evaluative knowledge from the past?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation to this event, and yeah, all the presentations were very interesting from my point of view as an independent evaluator. I would say that this the capitalization of the evaluation knowledge as basically, or as it was presented in the different approaches of the, let's say, international organization and then the Italian approach, as basically to me a twofold implication for an evaluator. On the one hand, let's call it like the one ascending phase where the evaluator could be more involved in all the process. I know, for instance, that because I was involved in this, that Emilia-Romagna has also progressed in parallel with involving the evaluator with the training to the officers, which I find very good, a very good practice. And then a more, like, let's say, more massive descending phase, more operational for the evaluator. Let's say regarding this, that on the one hand, I think that this building of knowledge can enable like a more interactive and more efficient interaction between the administration and the evaluator in terms of glossary, of vocabulary of evaluation. So this is very important as a starting point. And then in an even further operational level, I would say that collecting all this information is very crucial, because then you have, and this goes very well for systematic evaluation as in CAP in the Common Agriculture Policy, but not just this, that you will then have as an evaluator a massive archive of information, data, on which you can build trends, on which you can even more define better the evaluation question together with the administration, with the administration, let's say, so, or the donor in some cases, which could be even some additional questions. If I think about the CAP, which has this system of evaluation which is very, very regulated, then the collection of this information over years could enable the administrations in focusing on specific questions, because they have been collected a bunch of data which could be easily recalled, and which would in fact enable also the definition of additional questions, or even like meta evaluation on specific themes over years, which is also very important when you have to define effects of policies. And I would say that there are some other things that could be of use from this approach, and the one is that if an evaluator has access to a so massive amount of data, then he could easily concentrate on the collection of primary data instead, which is somehow, you know, in some cases very, very demanding, also in terms of cost of collection, because of course going to the field is not an easy task, especially nowadays, of course, but sometimes it's, you know, the balance between collecting secondary data and primary data could be detrimental for the evaluation. In this case, if the evaluator already can access a bunch of secondary data, then I think it's of mutual benefit, the let's say recurring to the collection of primary data instead. And as a last point, last but not least, I would say is that from this system, I believe that also the evaluator, it's himself or herself, could benefit in terms of capacity building, because he will also have access to a number of evaluation possibly performed by other consultants or other evaluators, and then look at other methodologies, other approaches, and build on this also for his benefit, but also for the benefit of a more qualitative evaluation and a more evaluation which are in fact of more added value for the donor.
Thank you very much indeed, Vincenzo. Yes. you are completely right. Especially I'm thinking about all the amount of data that this evaluation can bring to the administrations, and which remain there, no? Without any utilization, and which could be used by the evaluators, by then focusing more on new and innovative methodologies now for capturing the effects of the programs and so on. I mean, for more massive work on the field. No, you could concentrate your efforts more on primary data instead of secondary data in this case. Well, I have two questions. One is for Laura and Silvia, and the other one is for Fabrizio. The first one for Laura and Silvia is, have the participating evaluation unit developed common criteria to assess the quality of the evaluations?
No, we actually didn't. This was a byproduct of the work. We didn't have criteria for the quality of the evaluations, and that was by choice, because we didn't want to, since evaluation units were reading each other's evaluations, we didn't want to have this, you know, judgmental. But there was a byproduct, because we have different types of evaluations, some of which are based on preconceived indicators, and basically they are more or less a smart reading of monitoring data. They're not evaluations. And I have been telling people that these are not the way to do, and this is useless, and blah, 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 and nobody believes me. But then, when the evaluation unit members were looking for evidence, because they needed evidence on issues that were important for them, and they wanted to know, they realized which evaluations which type of evaluations were providing evidence and which ones were not. So there was an awareness of this, and finally, they came to me and they told me that the certain type of ritualistic monitoring data-based evaluations are actually less useless. And there was a critique, you know, like, why are you not doing anything about it? And I was, you know, like, yes, you know. So but next time we do something like that, we will add you know, criteria and quality criteria, and we will add more than that, we will add methods, attention to how is the evidence collected, how the data are collected, how are they processed, which are the methods and the techniques that are used.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I'd like only to add
Yeah,
that we had the common instruments. This was the first, you know, experience, and we started from having the same approach in collecting findings and in organizing them to move to evidences. And then it was more, you know, a quality kind of exercise. The evaluations were very different one from the other, and so the objective was not to, you know, define, to evaluate the quality of other evaluations, but to identify if they were saying something useful for us. So that was the exercise.
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you. Fabrizio, the other question is for you. To what extent are the findings and recommendations discussed with the stakeholders in workshops help to foster common learning? Fabrizio, I don't see Fabrizio actually.
I'm here. I don't know if you can see me and hear me.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Let me tell you that, of course, the experience varies evaluation by evaluation. By and large, I think the system has worked relatively well for at least stimulating a response from the stakeholders, notably from the main institutional stakeholders, so the government and from IFAD management on the recommendation. So what we do see, for example, is that whenever there is a country program that has benefited from a previous evaluation, the quality of the analysis, the quality of the concreteness also of the proposals that in the country program are much better. So we can clearly see the benefits from the evaluation. We can clearly see some sort of self-reflection of what worked and what didn't work. And also from the attitude of the government, whenever we conduct workshops, particularly for country evaluation at the end of evaluation, we do see openness in discussing what failed, the failures, so what didn't work well enough. And you know, it's not easy for many government, for public agencies sometimes to admit that things have not worked. So, and the same is for management. So we do see some good, in a way, sort of candor in accepting that things have not been working very well. Now, to me, the main question is to how to preserve knowledge, because sometimes knowledge is also limited to the persons who are present at the time of evaluation. And then you have turnover of staff. You can have it at the junior level, you can have it at the senior level. So the problem is at that level, how you maintain the sort of knowledge of history and historical memory, rather. So that's really the big I would say challenge that we find, and that's what.
We lost you, Fabrizio. We can not hear your voice.
Such as evaluation synthesis that provide in a way historical memory of what evaluation findings have been in the past, and keep this historical memory alive in the organization. So partly is having tools that allow people for search, partly is our own engagement with the stakeholders, so that making sure that the historical memory remains there. So that's the sort of first quick answer. Thank you.
Thank you to you, because you raised the ball for my closing remarks. This is exactly what I'm concerned about. And I said that the evaluative culture, in my opinion, within the public administrations in Italy have been increased, because also because of the requirement of the European Commission about the evaluation to be conducted on the public programs, so the rural development programs, but the conservation, as you said, I mean, conserving and this evaluative knowledge and the findings of the evaluations, even with the turnover, is challenging. And we certainly need to set up procedures, methods, tools to ensure that this evaluative knowledge, which have been sedimented, I would say, across the different programming period, could be used also in the future by the new managers of the programs, and this is very challenging. I mean, I must say that I'm facing this in this programming period, because some of the managing authorities changed, and the new ones, of course, needs to build, of course, certain capacities, to navigate through evaluations and to follow up, to understand the use, the necessity, the possible uses of the evaluations. Yes, thank you. I would like really to thank you all the presenters, because we had some very good insights on procedures, methods, approaches to the evaluative culture, and tools to maintain the knowledge evaluative knowledge within the administrations and continue using the evaluative findings for better policies and programming designs. So thank you very much indeed to everyone. I want to also remind to all of the participants that the recordings of this webinar will be posted in the website of gLOCAL together with the presentations and also a report of the main findings of this webinar. So thank you very much indeed to everyone, and please enjoy the rest of the day. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.